Plugged In podcast is brought to you by the Youth Fellowship of RCCG, the Life Center.
Yeah, I'm happy to see all the radiant faces around the circle. And want to appreciate Pastor KG and Pastor Amena and the executives, the escort of the youths for the wonderful work, and then for the youths who are also responding. I'm happy to be here. As Pastor KG said, I'll be looking at certain things from the perspective of counseling. The fact that once you cross a certain age, you are no longer a teenager. There are certain things you need to know so that you begin to prepare yourself, whether you're a young lady or you're a young man. Even when you're in a relationship, what should be the boundaries? What are the things that you're supposed to do to be able to keep yourself pure until such a time that you can now say, oh, this person in my life is special. So I've now zeroed in on a particular person. And then when you zero in on a particular person, you now begin to, build your relationship until such a time when you know that you are ready to move forward in life. And then you get your parents involved, you get the pastors involved, and then things will begin to flow from that point. So since we're talking about is love blind, it's a question. And the idea is that at the end of the day, we'll have an answer. I've seen when the question was asked, at least we have many more people here amongst us who believe that love is not blind, which means we are starting from a very, very strong point. So what basically is love? When you say love, what are you talking about? Love is said to be the strongest human emotion. It's the strongest human emotion. Love can be described as strong affection, tenderness, and devotion that you have towards someone. Also, love is termed unconditional commitment. We are not perfect as we are seated around in the circle. No one is perfect. We are all still striving for perfection. So when you're also talking about love, we are also talking about the unconditional commitment that you have towards someone. Also, when you're talking about love, yes, love has some aspects of feeling, but beyond that, love is action. That's why the Bible says in John 3:16, which is a popular memory verse for children, God so loved the world that He gave. So love is not just a feeling, it's an action. Love is a choice that you make. You want to serve someone, you want to uplift someone, you want to mirror that boundless love that Christ has for us. Most times we hear, there are 4 different kinds of love. It's true. We have the agape love, the God kind of love. You also have the love among the family, the one you call the stooge, and then you have the philia amongst friends. Most of us around here, we are like friends, acquaintances. And then you have the eros, and most of our discussion will be, looking more on the point of view of eros. That's the romantic love. Love, physical attraction between a man, a woman, between a lady and a gentleman, and between, but within marriage. So back to our topic, is love blind? When you say blind love, what are you talking about? What's blind love? Well, both responses, especially, let me say, your response that you gave, thank God you said as it was in the time of old. And that's not really love. Like Pastor KG said, it's just blind marriage. For some people it worked, for others it didn't work. And with that kind of arrangement, the same way the first lady was brought, other ladies can also come in. There was so much polygamy and all that around it. So when you're talking about blind love, like she just said, is you choosing to love someone so much that all that you ever see is just the goodness as far as that person is concerned. You really like someone, I use really like in quotes, that you feel that everything that the person does is good, everything that the person does is okay. Even when you are being manipulated, you still want to believe that everything is working for your own good, everything is working in your own interests. But the truth of the matter is that it has a lot of negative impact that comes with it. So blind love is that you actually have a version of someone that you fantasize about, or an ideal person that you feel that two of you can actually be in love and all that, and then you more or less package that person into that box to fit into the things that you are looking out for in love, even when it's not manifesting like that, and you choose to take your mind off the fact that it's not manifesting like that. Blind love also, you can be experiencing blind love if you have in your head your idea of your ideal man, and then this young man comes, he fits in. He's going to be tall, he's going to be bearded, he's going to have muscles, he's going to have this kind of baritone voice and everything. So those things are there, but now you are not looking at the character of the person. You are not looking at other things that are shouting and contrary to what you want in that person, but you have actually seen an image of the person that you want. So there is this movie, I don't know how many of us have watched it. I think it just came out like 3-4 days. A Love Like Raymond. Has anyone watched it? By Winlows. You don't watch it? Yeah, it's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Okay. So that's a typical case of blind love. So when you're talking about blind love, from what I've said, it means that you're just chasing shadows, you're ignoring the reality. When the reality, hits, then it's more or less, it's like it's too late. So a love like Raymond is just a young man just suddenly finds himself in a church setting, and because he was on a mission. He had an eye on a particular girl, and when he came there, so usually when people come like that, they want to impress, and all that. Before you know it, he had impressed the pastor, impressed others. They put him in a small group to be the group that will, brainstorm about the growth of the church and all that. He was saying all the right things, doing all the right things, and saying all the right things. And before you know, a lady who someone else was eyeing, and that person was more or less like someone who was professing the true love to her. But like I said about the way blind love packages itself, everything she wanted in a young man was in Raymond. So before you know it, she was swept off her feet. Before you know it, she began to lose her spiritual stamina. The guy will come up, he came up with so many stories, and then we moved into her house, and then she fenced off every other person that can advise her properly. And that's what blind love also does. Before you know it, you are so involved with the person that you don't want to hear what any other person is saying. But of course, eventually, as is typical of cases like that, the guy, deceived her, took her money, impregnated her, and then he was off. And then she found out that he had been married before. He was in a different relationship outside the one he was having with her. So blind love is dangerous, but it is rampant. It is rampant, and you also find it in the church. You say, a lady will say, this guy is different. Somehow, you have more ladies being victims of blind love than men. Am I right?
Yes.
Why is it so? No, let me ask the question. Why is it so? Praise the Lord. Well, the thing is, most time in society, you know, when the men are still growing up, you know, depending on the kind of background that they come from, you know, you hear things like, oh, it's okay for a man. It's okay for a man, you know, to just date so many ladies, sample women and all that before you now finally zero on someone. And for the lady, you know, most times the upbringing is such that, oh, don't mess yourself up, you know, and all that. You have to be sure, and if you are into a relationship, do everything that you possibly can to make that relationship work. So you find out that many times women are in relationship and it's not working. And then the thing again is this thing about the guilt. In as much as it's not expected that when you are in a relationship and that relationship has not ended in marriage and you are supposed to ensure sexual purity, you find out that some ladies, you know, by the time they are already intimately involved with a man, most times they don't pull back. Most times they don't pull back. There was a relationship I was aware of and it wasn't even working. I was clear that the relationship was not working. Do you know the only reason that the lady gave that she didn't want to come out of that relationship was the fact that she's already been intimate with the man. You know, so these are the things that, you know, you now find that is more rampant. And whether we like it or not, we cannot deny the fact that this thing is also happening in church. It's happening in church. You know, so be very, very, very careful. Be very, very careful. Remember what Job chapter 1 verse 6 says. It says, when the sons of men gathered, that the devil also came into their midst. So that brother is so fervent, is in the church, is doing all the right things. It might even be, you know, they work their way into being very close to the pastor, the pastorate, head of department, and all that. You know, so you have all these things that happen. So we have to actually watch out. Blind love is dangerous. Watch out for all the warning signals. So you need to stay informed. You need to check out things. Even when someone is, you know, telling you things and all that, find a way of checking it out. Do your due diligence. Don't be deceived. Do your due diligence. And we remember when our pastor that ministered during the doctrinal teaching, he told us that we should look before we leap. There was someone who, I mean, he didn't wake up and suddenly got married to that lady. They were in a relationship. So that's a case of, I'm sure there must have been some, you know, one or two things to show that it wasn't the right relationship. But because the man in this instance was blind, that when they got married, what that pastor told, they asked the young man that who is the head in the marriage, Abi? Shall we remember? Yeah. So who is the head? And the man was like, so what now happened? If you remember, what happened? You know, she turned into a lion. She turned into a lion. And they're already in the relationship. So we have to be careful. So when we are talking about blind love, a man can be blindly in love and a lady can also be blindly in love. Only that, like we earlier established, you have more cases of women being blindly in love. So I just want you to tell someone around you, look before you leap. You need to look before you leap. And whatever I've said so far, the Bible says he that has ears to hear, let him hear what the Spirit is saying. So whatever you are hearing today, pay particular attention to it. So when we are talking about blind love, it ends up, as a relationship that is built on a false foundation. Most time there's a lot of deceit, there is breach of trust, and there's a lot of secrecy that goes into it. There's a lot of dishonesty that goes into it. So it's just disaster waiting to happen. The unfortunate thing is that some people, even if they know that their own case, is a case of a blind love, they still try to manage it and make sure that it ends up in marriage. Because for those people, what matters is that marriage is an end, and suddenly maybe in the marriage things will now become right. So that's a big mistake. If you fall into that kind of a situation, it's a disaster. So I also want to ask your neighbor, which one do you prefer, a bed of roses or a bed of thorns?
Which one do you prefer, bed of roses?
So if you blindly, choose that, you want to manage it and all the rest, and that you believe that you are able to take care of things when you get married, it turns out that most times it's not like that. Paul, when he was talking to the Ephesians, he says, I pray that the eyes of your heart be enlightened. The eyes of your heart be enlightened. So when he's talking about the eyes of the heart being enlightened, he's talking about love that is discerning. He's also talking about love that is discerning. So the truth is that love is not blind. As far as the heaven is from the earth, so also is true love, far removed from blindness. So the love that is true love is love that sees everything. Love that sees everything, but that love also transcends everything. Let me ask us, the love of Christ for his disciples, is it that he didn't know what was in them? Did he not know? And also told Peter that he was going to deny him 3 times. Did he not know that Jesus Iscariot was going to betray him? He knew. I actually told them and all that. So love sees. He saw all those things. The Bible tells us in the book of Romans that while we were yet sinners, he died for us. That death was an act of love. So even the love that Christ has for us is love that sees everything. But the thing is that love transcends everything. It transcends everything. So if the love of Christ, the Bible tells us in 1 John chapter 4 verse 8 that God is love, isn't it? The big part of it says God is love. So if the love that Christ has for us sees, but he goes beyond that to still love us. But remember, that's the agape love. For us, we are humans. So how come your own love, I love you, how come you are saying that one is blind? So you have to open your eyes also and be able to see. So when you say I go love, make sure that you can see. Don't dig your own grave. Open your eyes wide. Look for the red flags because they are usually there. The red flags are there, but many times people choose to ignore them. People choose to ignore these red flags. And that's why we are having the kind of problems we are now having. How come a marriage is under 2 months? A marriage is under 3 months? And there are so many issues. Some of them, even when people get involved, the counselor gets involved, the parents get involved, there is nothing that can be done. Because the foundation was faulty. So many things were there, all the red flags I will show you, don't go, don't move forward, and yet you choose to, ignore all those things. So some of the red flags, I just want to mention a few of them. Now the first one is talking about if you have no personal conviction about the future of the relationship, don't go forward. If you don't have a personal conviction about the future of that relationship, then it's time to step back. You have to take time to ask. When we do marriage counseling, I usually ask people, I say, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I'll ask the young man, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? I ask the lady, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? That question is to enable me see if, you actually understand where you people are going to. Because you find out that if you get into marriage and you can survive the first 5 years, then it's likely that you really understand that you are in for a long haul. You understand that yes, it's together for life, because most things that will go wrong, in most of the times, the biggest battles that you will fight is within that first 5 years. So you need to understand. So as a young man or as a young lady, if you don't know where you are going to, how will you know who will join you? Just anybody. Not just anybody can join you. Because you must be looking at the future. That lady that you are taking as your wife now, 10 years from now, will things still be? Will you people be on the same page, have the same vision? Not necessarily entirely the same vision, but this vision that complement one another, so that you are a stronger force. The Bible says 2 is better than 1. A threefold cord cannot easily be broken. So have you considered those things, or you are just interested? Some people say, why do you love this lady? Say, I just like the way she dresses. Or I just like the fact, the way, she's slim. I like them, looking slim and all the rest. Or you ask the lady, say his muscles and all that, the way he dresses too. I mean, those are not the kind of things you should be looking at. So this will determine the kind of person that can join you if you know where you are going to, and then the person can join you. Let me use the typical case of Daddy Gio and Mommy Gio. You understand, from the beginning, even before, like most of us might be aware, that at the time God told Daddy Gio that it was Mommy Gio he was going to marry. By then she was in a relationship, she was engaged. She was engaged. She was engaged. And that we know that Gio doesn't hide. He was a randy young man, isn't it? There were so many ladies that he was involved with until when he gave his life to Christ. And then he met her. But because that was the will of God for the two of them, later on, the person she was engaged to did a test and found out that no, they were not compatible. And that's how, that the Gio got married to her. So you can see that from the beginning, they know where they were going to, and we see how far they've come in life. Also, when there are indications that that person is not genuinely born again, that person is not a regenerated child of God. Like I said, please, all of you here, try and watch that movie, A Love Like Raymond. So all the red flags were there. But at the end of the day, the lady continued the relationship, and she was the one who was the loser at the end. You must be aware that there are many wolves in sheep clothing that are in the church. So you have to be careful. So no matter how you meet that young man, whether it's online, whether it's physical, because we are in a digital age, isn't it? And you can meet someone online, virtually and all that. I'm not saying anything is wrong. But you have to look out. You have to be sure that that person is truly a child of God. Another red flag that you should watch out for is when your partner wants more from you than he's willing to give. A one-sided relationship. You have to be very, very careful. Some people, they're in a relationship, they keep making demands, they are selfish, they are petty. They are not the type that want to give. They are stingy, they are childish, they are always making demands. So be careful when a relationship is one-sided. Also, be careful when you sense that person is attracted to the same sex. We've had a case, yes. It looks like I've touched something there, Abby. I saw, Are you shocked? Or Yes, because I mean, we've had cases where you have to counsel somebody that the wife only in marriage, but I doubt. That's why I'm saying blind love. The signs are there, the red flags are there. You know, there is a way he relates with the friends and all that, and this thing starts from the university. In the university I attended back then, you know, accommodation was a problem. So they give to first year and they give to final year. So when you're second year, third year, and all the one in between, depending on the course you are reading, you are your own to sort out your accommodation. And I got accommodation, but I had a friend that didn't have. So I now said, okay, I had a friend that I was supposed to sport with. I know that friend in and out, so I will be comfortable staying with her. But my friend that is not a friend to that, you understand what I'm saying? She didn't have, so we had to stay with my auntie. And my auntie is very, very far away from the university. But each time we come, then they will now do ballot. After they've given everybody, then they will now do ballot. So when they do ballot, if you pick, then you can now have. So we're waiting for when they will do the ballot. So from time to time, we come to get information. There's this young lady that approached me. And she said, that if I want accommodation. I said, no, I have. She said, I can sport with her. I said, no, I have. But cut the long story short, my friend didn't get accommodation, and then we are spending so much on transport. So at the end of the day, I begged the person that is my friend, because someone now promised her and said, okay, she can come maybe after like 3 weeks. So I told my own friend, please do me a favor. Let this friend of mine, even though she's not, let her stay with you, so that I can stay with this other one. So it's like I had 2 accommodation and my friend didn't have. So I stayed with this young lady, not knowing that, I mean, she was a lesbian. And as far as she's concerned, she just saw a partner. You know, so some people have been in this thing right from the university, some secondary school, even these days, getting to primary school. You know, they will just tell you their sexual preference and all that and all that. So you have to be careful, because that sister at the end of the day, you know, the guy just did it because he wanted to please his parents. He went ahead and got married. And then he was not ready to consummate that marriage. And she was suffering. You also remember the pastor that during the doctrinal teaching, he said for 2 years, people were married, they were not able to consummate that marriage. You know, so these are the issues. You have to look out for things like that. I guess my time is almost up. Let me just take one or two more red flags, and then I'll ask us a few questions. Also, when you don't have peace, you know, there's this kind of relationship you are in. You have your fears, you have your doubts, you have your concerns. You don't really have peace, you know, and all that. So don't say that, oh, we've been in it for 5 years, so I've invested so much. If I pull out now, it's better to pull out than to enjoy a lifelong, you know, suffering and pain and the misery that goes with it. So at this point, I want to ask us a question or 2 questions. I'll ask the men and then I'll ask the ladies. So the first question I have, for the young men, because like I was talking about, you know, secrecy, deceit, dishonesty and all that. So if you are in a relationship and then later on you find out, because these days people tell a lot of lies, you know, and all that. And let me say you are like 32 years old, and then the lady tells you that she's 29, so you're supposed to be 3 years older than her, isn't it? Huh?
No, 3.
32 and 29, that's 3 years. So you're supposed to be 3 years older than her. And then somehow much later you find out that that lady is actually 37. So the men are, what will you do? Eh? Okay, someone says it's a deal breaker. Okay, I have another question. So it means that love is not blind. Even if you've been in that relationship for like 5 years, you won't forgive her and say, okay, it's one of those things, let's just carry on. You won't. It's a deal. You will know. Thank you. So the other question I want to ask before I go forward to the one I have for the ladies. So it means that love is not blind, right?
For men, it's not blind.
It's not blind. Okay, I just want to ask another question. You know, if a lady, you know, has been involved sexually before that resulted in pregnancy and she aborted and things went wrong, and she's well informed, she's aware that because things have gone wrong, she will not be able to conceive, and she hides it from you as a young man, and you find out, what will you do? It's the same thing. Okay, for the ladies too, you know, just like the pastor spoke during the doctrinal teaching, you know, if you find out that the person you want to get married to, I'm talking about marriage now, that he knew his condition, that he was impotent and deceived you and all that, and I don't know, maybe sometime to the wedding, a friend or somebody who knows the situation, you know, opens up and gives you evidence. What will you do? The ladies, what will you do?
Please. They're walking away.
A few days before the wedding. It could be someone who is related to you who has the information. Who knows? Yes, I have a very, very young, beautiful niece. Parental consent is very, very important because, you know, I say you should check it out, look before you leave. It's not just about you alone looking. Your parents also have their own part to play. You know, there was back then, you know, many years, I had this very beautiful niece. She was just coming out of secondary school. And there was a not young, someone who was like 42 or so that came around and all that. So maybe because he had money, so the father was kind of, you know, almost accepting. And her mom was my mom's immediate younger sister. So I told my mom that if these people they are being carried away or something, or they can't say no to this man, you have to speak up for this girl. Because something is wrong with this man. I'm not saying that all those who wait till they are 42 that something is wrong, but something is wrong. Just ask questions and all that. And then, of course, they start asking questions, and something was wrong with the man. So it's easy to say that, oh, you will stay like that, and no, you won't stay like that. Once you are now married, you are supposed to consummate the marriage. And a marriage that is not consummated, most times it's not called divorce when they go their separate ways, so it's called annulment. It's annulment, because any marriage that is not consummated is actually not, it's not marriage. If you go to the Catholic church and you marry like that, you can't consummate, they just ask you, they don't even waste time. You go your separate ways. Everybody will begin to look at it that it's divorce. So, well, the other one is just before I now wrap up and we can take questions. So I asked the guys 2 questions. I'm asking the ladies also 2 questions. So someone is married and he has children. It happens a lot. It's happening these days, you know. And then he wants to wed you. And then you now find out. What will you do? You carry on. He has children.
But you didn't tell anybody.
You didn't tell anybody now. Yes. I know a case like that with someone that we work together. In fact, she had 5 children for the man, and he was going to wed another lady in Dunamis. And the lady was afraid to go and tell them because the man threatened her that he will not take care of the children. And she was just a secretary, so she was afraid that how will she take care of those children? But no, eventually they found out, so you know. So who will go ahead here? You disregard what your parents have to say and go ahead.
You go ahead.
But some people are actually on a mission that all they want to do is become Mrs. And they are desperate. I have a case that we are dealing with now. This young man went and married another lady as far back as February last year, and the wife only found out March this year. March this year. And what does the husband was say? Oh, they traveled out. He wanted to tell her. He was afraid, and all that. So these are the things. So since the men and also the ladies say they won't go on, then we have come to the conclusion that love is not blind, isn't it? You can see.